Hi, Charles SirBookSage here, and welcome to what is a part 2 of my Season 2 Wheel of Time kind of discussion and thoughts. There was a bunch of cast interviews for Season 2 that were released recently on YouTube, and after sitting and watching all of those, it gives me a clearer idea of what some of the characters are actually going to be doing here in Season 2. So I just wanted to kind of dive into some of the specifics I heard about, like what plot the main characters are going to be getting here. Now, before I do that, however, there was one thing about Season 1 that I just learned a couple of hours ago that I really wanted to kind of bring up briefly first. Because unfortunately, the things that I was frustrated about in Season 1, this kind of just adds to it, sadly. But one of the starkest things that I had a problem with when it came to Rand in Season 1 was there were a couple of pieces of him as a character really critically missing from Season 1 that I was really surprised weren't there. And I found out just recently, again a couple of hours ago, that these things were actually in the show and they were cut out. I guess for time constraints is the excuse given. So I don't know about time constraints, and I don't necessarily buy that personally, but it is what the showrunner has said in terms of why they were put on the cutting room floor. I just want to touch briefly on those because if you've only watched Season 1, you've never read the books, these are a couple of things that are pretty important to Rand as a character. And one of these is going to be very directly related to the Season 2, like the finale. And the first one is, in the books, Rand has this sort of meditative technique called, he refers to as the flame in the void. It's something Tam, his father, has taught him growing up, where when he's troubled and he needs to just really focus, he pictures the void and then this flame in the void. And it's like a meditative thing where he can then, everything else kind of fades away, all distractions go away, and he's calm and sort of in this center, even if a whirlwind's going on around him. If you've ever seen the Kevin Costner film, For the Love of the Game, one of his baseball films. He's a pitcher in that game. And he has this thing where he's on the mound and he says, release the mechanism or something along those lines. And the noise of the whole stadium just fades away. And it's just him on the mound and the catcher and the batter, and everything else is just wiped away. And it's a similar sort of meditative technique that Rand has. And it's something that's really central to who he is as a person and how he reacts in a lot of situations. And it's something that comes to help him as he grows into this sort of journey as the Dragon Reborn, because it ends up helping him when he channels, once he begins to channel. It's a centering, sort of stilling, centering thing that really is beneficial. And I was very, very surprised when it wasn't there in Season 1, because it's a bit surprising when you have a central characterization just not be present in your show at all. It's really, really weird to just not have that there. And I was very, very surprised at it, to be honest, that it was missing from the show. And now I've learned that it was actually in the show and they've cut it out. And that's really, really frustrating because Rand is the main character of at least the books. The show doesn't seem to treat him as a main character any more than any of the other characters. And you can make a case for that he is one of the main characters. And in the TV show, he definitely is a main character. In the books, he's the main character. It really is ultimately Rand al'Thor's story. But the TV show appears to be trying to balance out the characters a lot more than the books do. And everyone does get their time in the books. It's just that Rand is the main character, book-wise. But here in the show, again, everyone's kind of balanced out. And I was just really shocked that Season 1 never had the flame in the void. And now, again, learning that it's cut out is even more frustrating because it would not take a lot of time to show that, because you just visualize it once or twice in the season so the audience understands. And you can just have Rand just whisper "flame in the void" to himself, and the audience is going to then picture the flame in the void on their own. And you could even have like Moiraine or Lan notice him doing something and ask him what it is, and he can then just briefly explain to the Lan or Moiraine, and by extension to the audience, about the technique. Because it's something that's with Rand all the way through. It's something he reaches for all the time. And it's a really big thing for the show to just like not include at all. And the other thing that I found very strange in season 1 missing was that Rand wasn't being trained by Lan on how to sword fight. Because Rand is walking around with a heron blade sword. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm live. Rand is walking around with a heron-marked blade. And that's just an announcement that he's claiming to be one of the best sword fighters on the planet. And Lan understands that as they go deeper into the world and deeper into danger, that these kids need to know how to fight. And especially Rand, if he's walking around with that blade, he's going to be challenged for it. And in the books, particularly the early books, Rand and Lan form a very strong bond because every moment they have of their training. Lan is walking around through, there's all these different sword forms and fighting styles, and they each have their own name. And they're all named in the book, and they're explained and everything. A really cool, fascinating part of the story is all of these sword techniques. And every time they have a moment, they're training throughout. And it's a really cool part of the story because this allows Lan and Rand to, like, again, form a strong bond and really get to know each other and understand each other. And it's really important for Lan to show him, like, just as a person, not just Moiraine's water being there for Moiraine. He's a warrior, he's a soldier, he understands these kids have been taken from this sleepy little village in the middle of nowhere, and they're going to be thrust into the biggest events of the world, and they have to learn how to defend themselves. So that was the other thing. I was shocked that we didn't have Lan training Rand with the sword in season 1 at all, and apparently that was the other thing that they did film and cut for time constraints. And I'm going to have a really hard time expecting to just believe that Rand can stroll into Falma at the end of season 2 that we're going to be getting and sword fight High Lord Torok, who is a blade master. How does this show spend entire season 1 not showing the kid learning how to use the sword? But anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I just learned these two things a couple of hours ago about season 1, and I just needed to get it off my chest. So now I want to get into season 2 and the things that I learned watching all these sort of mini interviews with the cast for season 2, because there's a lot of really interesting tidbits in them. If you haven't watched those cast interviews, they're actually pretty interesting. You get a good look at Donald Finn, who's going to be playing Matt Cawthon going forward, and you get to see the actress playing Elaine, for example. I was surprised that no Ayula Smart, Avienda, no interviews with her. Elaine, the actress playing Elaine, is the only new addition to the cast that they had in interviews. So I was a bit surprised by that, but that could just be because we might just be getting a little bit of Avienda, Bane and Chiad, and they might not be here the whole season. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be the expectation, that they're not going to become, like Avienda might not become a main character until season 3. Who knows? We have to watch the show to see, I suppose. And so I kind of wanted to go over some things that I gleaned from the interviews, because it's pretty fascinating stuff, actually, and some telling stuff, some good and some I'm a bit worried about in terms of choices the show is making for season 2. So now, in the showrunner's defense, this is a daunting task to adapt 14 books, 10,000 plus pages, into a coherent live-action television show. So, for example, I'm just going to list the main characters. And again, these are just main characters. These aren't supporting characters. These aren't important supporting characters or side characters or just random characters that come and go. These are like the main characters of the story, just to give you an idea of the scope the show is dealing with. Okay, so these are the main characters. There's Rand, Mat, Perrin, Nynaeve, Egwene, Moiraine, Lan, Min, Elaine, and Aviendha. So that's 10 main characters that are going to be trying to coexist in 8-episode seasons going forward. And that's a lot for the show to try to adapt into live action. So there's going to be a lot of like storytelling corners cut and a lot of supporting things just taken out of the story. Like I've already mentioned before, I don't think we're getting Queen Morghase's whole sort of side plot. I don't think that's going to be happening in the show. I think there's going to be a lot of people, unfortunately, cut. We are getting Bail Domon. I did learn earlier that he is one of the castings that was announced. So we are getting Bail and his ship. So I'm really happy about that. I'm hoping. So who's going to get on his ship and travel perhaps to Falma in this season? That's one of the questions I'm looking forward to. But I did want to go over what I learned about what the main characters are going to be doing for season 2 from these interviews, because there's some interesting stuff. And I wanted to start with Perrin. Now, season 2 begins with the Horn of Valere has been stolen, and the Mat's Shatter Logoth dagger has been stolen by Padan Fain, and he's got Trollocs and a Murdrol or two, and they're basically on their way, presumably somewhere with the horn. And the Shienarans are putting together a group of soldiers to chase after him. They have to get the Horn of Valere back because it's needed for the last battle. And Mat needs to get that dagger back because Book Mat is still bound to that dagger and he'll die if he's away from the dagger for too long. So in the books, Mat and Perrin are going with Ingtar, this Shienaran captain, and his group of soldiers. Bloody Uno is going with them, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, no, Uno is not dead. He looked like he was stabbed to death at the end of season 1, but he's still alive. I think it would be kind of funny if Uno is almost killed or presumably dead at the end of every season, and he turns out he survives. Kind of little in-joke the show could do, where oh my God, they killed Uno, and nope, he's still alive. But anyway, so they're going to be going on the hunt. They're going to be chasing after Padan Fain to get the horn back. Mat needs to get the dagger back. Perrin's going with him. And in the books, Rand is manipulated by the Amerlin Seat and Moiraine and Varen Sedai, who's a really important Aes Sedai you're going to be meeting in season 2. They manipulate Rand into also going with Mat and Perrin and Ingtar. Because they know he's the Dragon Reborn. He needs to begin to learn how to lead. And if they nudge him out the door on that quest, the pattern is going to force him into events where he's going to have to be the one making decisions, whether he likes it or not. And in the books, there's this guy, Huron, who's a tracker, who is with this group. And he can sort of smell violence. And wherever Padan Fain and the Trollocs go, they're going to leave a trail of violence in their wake. So Huron can track them via that. And as far as Huron's concerned, Rand is a lord, Mat's a lord, Perrin's a lord. They have to be lords. Why else would they be in this quest? So Rand just starts getting treated as though he's a lord. And as much as he pushes back on it, it just starts to become something people just kind of view him as. And book 2 is really important for Rand's early growth as a character. He's coming to terms with being the Dragon Reborn, and he does need to learn how to begin to lead people, how to begin to lead soldiers, how to begin to lead men, how to play the great game with these powerful houses. And book 2 kind of thrusts him into all these circumstances where he has no choice. And whether he wants to or not, he starts learning the skill set that's absolutely critical to have for once we get to particularly late in book 3 and then book 4. Rand begins to basically step up and try to take control of his destiny and his fate. And he begins to expect people to follow him and issue and obey his commands. So book 2 is really the ground where that skill begins to be developed. And I'll get to what Rand's plot for book 2, for season 2 is. That's a bit different from book 2. But anyway, they all go on this hunt. And everything kind of leads to a head in Falma, where the Shan Chan have set up shop and all this stuff is going down. The girls are going to Tar Valon. They begin their Aes Sedai training. They are accepted. They're novices. They begin their novice training. Nynaeve goes through her accepted test very early because she's much more advanced. She's older and she's been a wisdom, so she's been naturally wielding Saidar, even though she hasn't realized it before. So they put her through the accepted test. That is one of the scenes I'm really looking forward to more than anything else in this show is for season 2 is that accepted test. I was watching one of Daniel Green's little videos about season 2. He's watching the little clip of the scene leading up to Nynaeve going through the arches for her test. And I agree with him that that whole accepted test, that needs to be the centerpiece of an episode. One of these episodes, that needs to pretty much be the bulk of that episode. That's a great, great, great scene in the books. And I really hope the show gives it the room to breathe and really be told properly. Now, that little 2.5 minute clip leading up to it seems to be pretty close to the book. So it gives me hope that the White Tower events that are in the books, including Nynaeve's test, are going to be what's in the show. I hope so. But we'll get there. I want to start off, with Perrin. This is the show difference from the books. In the books, it's Perrin, Mat, and Rand with the Shienarans on the hunt. In the show, it's just Perrin. Rand is not on the hunt. Mat is not on the hunt. Now, show Perrin, there's no reason whatsoever why Ingtar would let Perrin go. And if you think back to Perrin at the end of season 1, you know, he's standing around doing nothing while Padan Fain and Trollocs and Afade and everything attack. He's like Vincent Vega, you know, John Travolta, the meme from Pulp Fiction. Like, what do I do? So there's no legitimate reason why the Shienarans would even allow him to come on this hunt. However, one of the interesting things I learned from the cast interviews is Perrin has a scene with Ingtar, and where the actor actually finally gets to really dig into Perrin as a character. And he gets to speak actual words and speak actual lines, because he didn't get to do a lot of that in season 1. So he has a conversation with Ingtar. Apparently he opens up emotionally to Ingtar. And Ingtar, for everything Ingtar hears, he's like, okay, you deserve to come with us. So I'm glad the show is not just going to be having Perrin just to go, because that's what the plot is. I'm glad there's going to be a legitimately established reason for why they would let Perrin come. So I'm really happy to hear that. So Perrin looks to be getting his book 2 plot for the most part. And there's a whole lot of Perrin book 1 that the show took out because they wanted that dumb, which one is the dragon mystery? And if they started Perrin down his sort of wolf plot with Elias and Hopper and the wolves and the dreams, you would know pretty early that Perrin's not the dragon. So they eliminated like what Perrin is actually going through and dealing with and grappling with in book 1 from the show completely, which is why they gave him the fake wife to kill and gave that his emotional struggle for season 1, because they couldn't show the real reason. But we're finally getting that in season 2. We're getting Elias. I like the casting so far. Happy about it. I can't wait to see Elias on screen teaching Perrin about the wolves and communicating with the wolves. Can't wait to see Hopper. So Perrin is getting his book 2 plot plus everything they left out of for his personal journey and from book 1, and and he's going to be meeting Aiel. So unfortunately, he's not meeting Gaul. In book 3, he comes across an Aielman in a cage. We saw a similar thing in season 1, except that was a dead Aielman, and that dead Aielman had a little carving of a dog. So, but the showrunner said, no, that was not Gaul dead in a cage in season 1. But it doesn't look like we're getting Gaul here in season 2. Avienda is going to step into Gaul's spot, and Perrin's going to help Avienda, and then she's going to kind of like toe or whatever to Perrin, and she's going to probably be, her and Perrin are going to be there together doing stuff for a while, presumably fighting White Cloaks and stuff, and Bane and Chiat are going to be here. So we're getting book 3 things here in season 2 as well, which we know we're going to get a bunch of book 3 stuff. But in book 3, Avienda, Bane and Chiat meet Nynaeve, Gwen, and Elaine when they're out on a mission. So because that's happening now early, they're going to be at the White Tower, so they have to meet somebody else instead of Nynaeve, Gwen, and Elaine. So they're meeting Perrin. So Perrin is getting his book 2 plot with book 1 and book 3 stuff all piled on top of it. So I'm really hoping Perrin is going to get a lot of screen time, since he's the one of the Emmonsfield kids who's in the heart of the action of the plot. I'm hoping this is a very Perrin-centric season, because he's going to be right in the middle of the action all the way through, by the looks of it. And I'm a big Perrin fan. I love Perrin's wolf chapters in the books. And I'm really looking forward to them finally beginning the journey we should have had begun in season 1. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming for Perrin. If you've never read these books and all you've seen so far is season 1, Perrin's got a really, really interesting journey he's about to finally start taking here. And I'm still waiting for Axe and Hammer, because this is the conflict Perrin has. This is the choice he needs to make as a character. Was he going to pick up the hammer and kill? Is he going to pick up the hammer and create, or is he going to pick up the axe and kill? And his entire struggle internally throughout this series is, which choice is he going to end up making? Which choice is the pattern going to force him into having to choose every time he has to make a choice between these two things? And I just love Perrin's whole journey in the books, and I'm just so happy that we're finally going to be getting Elias and getting that journey properly started, since they didn't do it in season 1. Now, I don't know if we're going to get Fael in season 2. I believe they've cast the character already, though I don't know if that's for season 3. I probably don't expect really to see her until season 3, unless she pops up like in the final episode, because she's part of the people doing this whole separate hunt for the Horn of Valere. That's a whole separate thing that's going on in the books. Those people don't know that the horn is where it is. But anyway, I don't know if we're getting Fael. We definitely should be getting her next season. She's been cast. But it would be nice to get her here. But Perrin is getting his wolf journey. It's finally beginning. So I'm really, really happy about what we're going to be getting from Perrin this season. The interviews make me feel a lot better about his character going forward. That we're finally going to start doing him justice. Because I liked the actor for Perrin in season 1. I thought he did a really good job with what he was given. I just thought he was a very poorly written character because they had to keep some of his story away from him. So super happy that Perrin is finally going to start getting to be Perrin in season 2. So next up is Matt. Now, I have a feeling that for the TV show, Matt is going to have already been broken away from the dagger. Because if you go back and watch the scene in Tar Valon in season 1, where Moiraine is brought to where Matt is in a room and he's in really bad shape, and she sort of sucks this blackness out of Matt, like comes up her arm, covers her mouth, and then down her other arm and into the dagger. She says in that scene that she's broken Matt's connection to the dagger. It's been broken. So I'm wondering if the show is going to just treat it as though that took care of that. Because season 2 opens up about 5 months after season 1. So if the dagger's been gone for 5 months and Matt is still bound to the dagger in the show, the way he is in the books, Matt would be dead. So I'm just going to assume that Matt's connection to the dagger was indeed broken by Moiraine in season 1. Which means we're not going to get the Amyrlin and a whole linked circle of Aes Sedai healing Matt. But we'll see. Who knows? I don't think we're getting that at all now, because Matt is not on the hunt. He's not there. If you recall, because they didn't have the actor, Matt ended up just in Tar Valon still. So Matt's going to begin the season in a room in bed in the White Tower somewhere. And I think he's going to be interacting with Liandrin. So Matt is going to be recuperating still in a room. And that's how his season's going to begin. I don't know how much of the first 3 episodes is going to be spent with him cooped up in this one room. I'm curious. Now, it was interesting, the actor Donald Finn, getting to see him talk in interviews. And for him, it was a good experience, the way Matt's season 2 story begins, because it's him basically in this one room. It to him it felt like a sort of stage play where you have this one set and you and an actor are playing off each other. So it was a very comfortable environment for him, that he wasn't thrust into this big spectacle and all this big scenes. He was able to start small with one-on-one interaction. And it sounds like Leandrin is going to be the Aes Sedai who's coming to check on him. So I'm really curious to know if does the whole tower know Matt's there, or did the Red Aja like kind of grab him and ferret him away and stick him in a chamber somewhere deep in the tower, and most of the tower doesn't know he's there? I'm curious. Do the girls, do Egwene and Egwene and Nynaeve even know Matt's there? So that's one of the things we'll find out. So it looks like for Matt, we're going to be getting Matt's book 3 plot for the most part, because in book 3 we finally get our first Matt POV chapter, where Matt wakes up after having been finally healed from that dagger by the Amyrlin and the whole group of Aes Sedai. And Matt's like convalescing in Tar Valon. So similar to what we're going to get here in season 2. But Matt, being Matt wants to get away. He doesn't trust the Aes Sedai. He's like, they're going to experiment on me. I need to get the hell out of here. I need to find a way out. And he goes down into town because Matt loves to go down to the pub and gamble and drink. He likes to have fun. And he runs into Tom Merrilin. And this is where we understand Tom Merrilin has survived book 1, because the last we saw, Merrilin was holding off a fade while they ran away. So this is where we learn Tom Merrilin is still alive, and he comes back into the story in book 3. Now, there's no Tom Merrilin here in season 2 from what I've heard. So that part of Matt's season 3 or book 3 plot is out. So now I'm wondering if it's going to be Min filling in Tom's role instead, because there was a bunch of posters released, 2 characters per poster for season 2. And there's one where it's Egwene and Elaine, Moiraine and Lan. There's Nynaeve and Leandrin, which is really interesting. But one of the other posters was Min and Matt on the poster together. So it's possible that Min is going to kind of fill Tom's role, and Min is going to help Matt get the hell out of Tar Valon. So now, Bail Doman is in the show. That is a really, really good news. We didn't get him in season 1, but we're going to get him by the looks of it in season 2. So will it be Min and Matt who go down to the docks and hop on his ship and get out of there and go to Falma? Will it be Leandrin taking Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine onto Bail Doman's ship, and that's how they're going to get to Falma? So somebody's getting on Bail Doman's ship in season 2 at some point. Hell, it could be Rand for all we know. Leaves Karian, I'm not sure how to pronounce Karian, and then maybe he'll take Bail Doman's ship to Falma. Somebody is getting to Falma through Bail Doman's ship, so I'm just happy he's going to be here in season 2. So, but now here's the biggest problem I have with Matt getting his Matt at the White Tower season 3 stuff. There is a scene in book 3 with Matt at Tar Valon in the White Tower in the Waters practice yard that is a fan favorite from the books. Every Matt fan, myself included, one of the first things we thought about when we heard we were going to get a live Wheel of Time show when it came to Matt was, I can't wait to see Matt with his quarterstaff kicking the crap out of Gowan and Galad. But Gowan and Galad are not on the show. They're not here, at least not in season 2. I don't know if Gowan is going to be in the show at all. Galad is. There's been some talk of who they cast for him, but they're not here in season 2, which means this fan favorite scene from the whole book series is not going to be in the show. So we have 2 possibilities. They're just going to axe it completely, which I'd be very, very shocked that we don't get it, or we're going to get a bastardized version of the scene, which is what I expect we're going to get. Because if you watch the trailer, there was a quick moment where Nynaeve, with a sword, she's kind of sparring with 2 warders, because Nynaeve is learning how to sword fight. This is not Nynaeve from the books. Yes, I know my Nynaeve can get a little violent, but that's more of like physically or with the one power. She can be rough and tumble when she needs to, but she's not a warrior. She's not a wielding a sword kind of person. So, but in the show, this is one of the changes they've made to Nynaeve's character for the show. Not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. But I could easily see Matt making his way down to the yard, seeing Nynaeve sparring with the two waters, making a snarky Matt comment like Matt would be prone to do, and then the waters inviting him to give it a go, and then him picking up a quarterstaff and just going to town on these two waters. So I suspect that's what we're going to happen. We're going to get that kind of bastardized version of Matt with his quarterstaff. So two waters instead of Gown and Galad is going to be my guess. Just total guess on my part, total supposition, but that just seems the most likely because I can't imagine we're not going to get some version of that scene. And there really isn't any other place in Matt's journey from here where they could do that. So Matt is pretty much going to get book 3 up until a certain point, and then he's got to get to Falma, and then Matt should get his book 2 finale for the end of season 2. So mostly book 3 Matt until the end, and then it's book 2 Matt. Because if you've read the books, you know what Matt has to do here in Falma. It's super critical. Cannot wait to see this scene play out on screen. It's going to be one of the scenes where they're going to be spending their budget on this particular scene. I don't want to spoil it for anyone watching this who hasn't read the books. But let's just say Matt's going to do something of pretty significance. That's a game changer in many ways. And that also leads to Rand doing something that kind of forces Rand to take a step onto this world stage and people, kind of his first announcement, like, hey, I'm here, kind of thing. So I really can't wait for that. But Matt, for the most part, does look to be getting his book 3 stuff in the White Tower, and then eventually morphing into his book 2. So, and then we have Rand. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that the point of book 2, when it comes to Rand, is that he is learning how to lead here. A critical skill he's lacking that he needs to begin to learn for when he goes to the Stone of Tyr, when he goes into the desert, when he goes to Rhuidean and comes out of Rhuidean, dealing with the whole Kara Karn, and then when he just decides to start taking control of the fact that he is the dragon and expecting, lords and kings and queens to bend their knee to him. He needs to start that journey somewhere, and book 2 is where that journey starts. So, does the show have Rand doing something actively engaged in a plot that is going to teach him how to lead men? No. Why would the show do such a thing? This show doesn't seem to really like Rand all that much. Rand is gone to Carian, and he is apparently volunteering at a sanitarium. I think he's come there because that's where they've shoved Logain. Since Logain's been gentled and Logain is having a hard time dealing with no longer being able to channel, they've stuck him in the sanitarium. So Rand goes to work at a sanitarium to kind of deal with mental illness and everything, because he understands each time he touches the one power, it's driving him closer to madness. So he's, I guess, seeking out Logain to learn how to deal with the one power, because even though Logain can't channel anymore, so Logain cannot teach him how to wield the Sidon. I hope the show doesn't just have Logain teach him anyway, because if you can't touch the source, you cannot teach someone else how to use it. But he can at least intellectually explain what he experienced. So I think that's what Rand is doing there in this place. So yes, Rand will learn some important things in a sense, but it's going to be very frustrating watching next season when Rand goes into the desert and suddenly expects the entire Aiel to obey him without him having spent any time here in season 2 actually learning how to lead people in various situations. So I'm hoping Rand isn't stuck in this sanitarium out of the way of the main plot for most of the season. I'm hoping it's just a couple of episodes and then we get him out of there and get him actively involved. But this is where he's starting off. And the scene that they released with Logain, I really, really liked the actor playing Logain. Logain's character is a bit different in the show than he is in the books. I'm curious. This is one of the things that others have speculated as well. Are they going to not have Mazrim Taim in the show? Taim? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Are we not getting Mazrim? And is Logain going to be kind of Logain and Mazrim? Hopefully we're still getting Asmodean, because Rand needs someone to actually train him on how to wield Sidon, and he needs someone who can wield Sidon to train him. Logain, being gentle, can't do that, but that doesn't mean the show won't have him do that anyway. So we'll see. Will Logain be Logain, Mazrim, and Asmodean all wrapped up into one, or will Logain just be Logain and go down the road he goes down in the books, where he's going to end up kind of traveling with some other people for a while? We'll see. But the way they have him acting, the way he's written, he's showing a lot of personality traits of someone like Mazrim, or maybe even Asmodean. So he's a bit more complex version of Logain. So I'm really curious to see where they're going to take his character. But this is apparently why Rand, instead of being back with his friends on the hunt for the horn, why he's off doing this completely other thing all the way over here. So don't really know what to make of it, to be honest. So it is what it is, but it's really strange. I'm not happy that once again the show seems to be going out of its way to like minimizing Rand's part in the story. Because like I said, they took away some really important things from Rand in season 1, like the flame in the void, and learn like Lan teaching him how to become good with the sword. And in season 2, to take him out of the action and just give him this whole separate side plot is just very disappointing, because when this is where he needs to be learning very specific skills that he's going to need next season. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to substitute learning that in this show. Now, we also have Lady Selene, and if you haven't read the books, I'm going to try not to spoil who Lady Selene actually is. She's going to be a very, very interesting, very fun character to watch as this series goes on. I will just say that Lady Selene is just a name she's going by, and you'll learn much more about her. For the book readers, you all know who she is. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, I think, Natasha O'Keeffe's performance. I was a bit surprised. I would have expected they would have one actress playing the Lady Selene sort of prison role, and then the Natasha playing once she reveals who she really is, playing her from going forward. But it looks like she's just going to be who she is, just calling herself Lady Selene. But I'm really curious, because in the show, she's pretending to be someone who owns a dive bar in the crappy part of Carrion. And her and Rand are basically in a relationship. It looks like they're like an active sexual relationship even, because they did age up these characters. The Emmonsfield kids are aged up. They're not like younger teenagers. They're older, they're adults in the story. So, they can do these kinds of things in the show. So, but the little clip we saw of Selene with Rand, where they're sort of standing up on this cliff and she's leaning up against him and she has her hand on his chest. If you watch the clip, yes, very different circumstances from how this is going down in the book, but it is Lady Selene kind of manipulating Rand, which is what needs to happen. As long as the dynamic between the two of them is there, where Lady Selene is kind of just beginning to prod and push Rand into certain directions and manipulating him to get what she wants out of him, they can fit what needs to happen between them in this new sort of scenario. Because in the books, they're all on the hunt. Loyal is there as well. And when they bed down for the night, Rand decides to bed down next to this sort of interesting looking stone, and Loyal beds down next to him, and Huron as well. And when they wake up in the morning, everyone else is gone, and it takes them a while to discover they are in this sort of mirror dimension, because portal stones can transport you into parallel universes. Basically, they're in a parallel version of the world where certain things have happened differently throughout history. And that's where they actually meet Lady Selene in the story. And Rand eventually finds another portal stone to where they can get back to their regular timeline, and they kind of reunite with everybody. But I understand cutting out the whole mirror world stuff, because the show is going to have, was it Telerian Rod, the sort of dream world. That's going to be a major part of the story, dealing with the Aes Sedai, dealing with Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine. You're going to start seeing Telerian Rod, where they can enter this sort of almost virtual reality kind of place that's this dream world. So having the Telerian Rod, the dream world, and then the mirror world be this whole alternate parallel universe stuff can get a bit unnecessary and convoluted for the TV show. They have to cut things out. They have to pare things down. So just cutting out the mirror world stuff makes sense. So I really would be surprised if we get any mirror world in this show at all, because Telerian Rod by itself is going to be an undertaking for the show to show correctly and explain and incorporate into the plot more and more as we get deeper into these books after season 2. Plus, Perrin's sort of wolf stuff kind of connects into Telerian Rod as well. So leaving the whole dream world, mirror world stuff out makes sense. So it is what it is. Disappointed, yes. I'm always going to be disappointed when things that are in the books that are really cool aren't in the show. But you also understand, it's just, you're just not going to get everything. And they have to cut what they have to cut. That was what my video I posted yesterday was about when it came to season 1, one particular thing. Cutting out Caemlyn and putting in Tar-Valon instead. Those are the kinds of changes that just, it makes sense for a condensed version of the story for an 8-episode per season show. So Rand has a very different plot. Now, obviously, Rand is going to have to get to Falma in this show at some point. And he'll then get his season 2, his book 2 finale will be his season 2 finale. And I don't know what book 3 things Rand could experience here in this season 2. Because they're not going to be able to go to the Stone of Tyr. And so there's some things that probably Rand goes through leading up to getting to Tyr that they might be able to incorporate in the show here. But I really don't know what to expect, because Rand is doing things that he doesn't do in the books. His main plot is completely made up for the show. So we'll see how much book-specific things they can still incorporate into what Rand's doing. I just hope he doesn't spend the whole season off by himself and then just shows up for the season finale in Falma to then finally get to interact with everybody. But I kind of suspected that might be what happens. So really hard to tell still with Rand. We just know that for at least the whole start of the season, he has an entirely made-up plot that's not in the books. So he's not learning how to lead, which is disappointing. But we'll see. We'll see what they give us. Hopefully, since they're going this route, there's other aspects to Rand's journey that they're going to start accomplishing here. But they're going to have to find a way to make up his leadership skills being absent really quickly in season 3 before he gets into that desert and goes to Ruidian. So we'll see. But still giving them as much of the benefit of the doubt as I can, because again, there's just so many things that they just have to condense down for a TV show. Especially, the show would have been so much better served with 12-episode seasons, but 8 episodes is what it has, so 8 episodes is what they have to work with. So that's the 3 boys. Now, Egwene and Nynaeve, they're going to the White Tower. They look to be getting generally their book 2 plot. Elaine as well. They're in the White Tower. They start off as novices. Like I said, Nynaeve's accepted test, I think, is going to be the big Nynaeve kind of set piece for season 2. I'm really hoping they give that like its due and let it have pretty much most of an episode. But we'll see. So it's going to be fun getting to see Elaine. I am still puzzled that one of the effects of dropping Caemlyn from season 1 is Elaine doesn't know Rand yet. Where in the books, she met Rand before she goes to the White Tower, and she doesn't know him here. So taking away some of a character's motivation for why they do things, I'm curious to see what they're going to give to replace what motivation they're going to give her instead, because she doesn't have any connection to a Gwen or Nynaeve. In the books, she learns there from Emond's Field, where she knew Rand was from. So there's an instant connection for her to befriend these people because she has this strong connection to Rand. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that in the books. And it might just be they just happen to hit it off as friends, which is fine. But I'm curious to see her presentation. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining, because Elaine is the heir to the throne of Andor. She's never had to clean a pot or a dish or do any kind of hard labor of any kind, probably in her entire life. She's had servants to do everything for her. So her suddenly being a novice and scrubbing pots and doing all these things, I expect there's going to be some, humorous growing pains with the character. So I'm looking forward to the actress and seeing, again, everything comes down to how well written these characters are. And season 1, a lot of the characters were not very well written. I'm hoping they're better written, I guess, for season 2. Here's hoping. I don't know if it's the same writers or not. I didn't look to see the writing part of it. I just kind of stayed out of that. But really, it's the writing is going to come down to how they go. So I'm hoping that they're in the White Tower for most episodes 1 through 5, and it's maybe episode 6 ends with Leandrin taking them to Falma. I would much prefer that, because there's a lot of White Towers chapters in book 3 as well that the show has to really get in here in season 2, especially if season 3 is going to be book 4. That means that Gwen's going to be going into the Threefold Land next season. She's not going to be at the White Tower, so those Egwene chapters from book 3 have to happen here. So there's a lot of book 3 White Tower chapters that they have to try to squeeze in to this season. So I'm hoping they're just in the White Tower for most of the season, and then they're only in Falma for the last 2 episodes. That's my hope. If they do that, then that's going to give them time to really get all the machinations going on at the White Tower, all the kind of inner workings and the political movements and the various factions, and then just other things like, was it the Gray Man and other things like that start happening at the White Tower. There's really a lot of really good storytelling in the books in a lot of these White Tower chapters, particularly Gwen chapters, that I really, really enjoyed when I was reading the books. Each time I've read the books, I really enjoy these early White Tower chapters. So we'll see. I'm hoping the bulk of their season is there before they come to Falma. And I don't know, though, if we're getting Elida. I haven't really looked too deep into the extra casting to see if we're getting her. I would hope so. A part of me wonders if they're going to just give Elida's story to Leandrin. Maybe they're just enjoying the actress playing Leandrin so much, we might get her take on Elida's role, too. I don't know, because, the direction Leandrin goes in the story is away from the White Tower on all this other stuff. So I don't really see how they would have to take away most of her book journey to give her Elida's story instead. So I'm hoping we do get Elida in this show. We're definitely getting Varen. I'm really, really happy about that. Varen is one of my favorite Aes Sedai from this whole series. In many ways, I like Varen probably more than Moiraine even. She's a really, really interesting character. And I'm really looking forward to, I think the actress playing her was in, was it series 5 or series 6? Series 5 of, was it series 5? Yeah, I think series 5 of Doctor Who. Right, it was the 2-parter, the Silurian, the Cold Earth one, where they get pulled under. I think she's the actress who's playing Varen, the same actress in that show. Because I only just kind of saw a quick photo of the casting, so I think that's her. I could be wrong. Let me know if it's somebody else, but I think it's that actress who was in that 2-parter episode with Matt Smith, his 11th Doctor. I think it was in series 5. So I'm really looking forward to her as Varen. Again, I love Varen, one of my favorite supporting characters, one of my favorite Aes Sedai from the books. So especially looking forward to seeing her finally here in season 2. And again, everything comes down to how these characters are written. So let's see, where are we at? So I've covered Perrin, I've covered Rand, I've covered Matt, I've generally covered the girls. Again, I don't know if it's going to be Egwene, Nynaeve, Elaine, and Min all being taken by Leandrin to Falma, and then Egwene getting captured, and the rest of them like running around trying to figure out what to do in response, or if they're going to make changes. Is Min going to be with Matt instead, kind of doing Tom Maryland stuff? So we'll see. They've given Min a sort of updated look with the sort of shaved sides of the head. That gives me more of Min is going to end up in Falma in the hands of the Shan-Chan as well kind of vibes. So, or this might just be Min's new look for season 2. I don't know. I was really disappointed personally in how Min was written in season 1. The actress, I think Kay Alexander, she's fine. She was fine in the role they gave her to play, but that was just very poorly written Min. So I'm hoping the show starts getting that Min written much better and much more book Min, because I was very disappointed in how Min was handled in season 1. They just moving her even to where they moved her to is just, I get it in the show why they did that, but I was just really disappointed. Min's one of my 3 favorite characters in the entire book series, so I was disappointed in how she was written in season 1. And I do find the casting a bit odd, because the actress is like 10 years older than the actor playing Rand, so it was a bit surprising at the age difference in the actors, but it is what it is. I mean, the actress playing Lady Selene is about 10 years older as well, so maybe they're going with Rand with like older women vibe, I don't know. But we'll see. I mean, the actress didn't get to do much as Min, and Min starts to come into the story a lot more here. Once, I think in book 2, and then going forward, we're going to get a lot more Min. So I'm hoping Kay Alexander is given a much meatier and much more Min-accurate role to play going forward, because I'd like to see what she can really do with the character. And I'm hoping they've given her this updated look, so I'm really curious to see. She's one of the things I'm the most interested in season 2, because she was one of the things I was the most disappointed about in season 1, because I just thought she was poorly written. Again, the actress was fine, but just she wasn't given a good Min to play. So hopefully we get a much better Min. This is the other thing, though, that I don't know what we're going to get in terms of book accuracy and other changes, because it turns out season 2 was filmed like a couple of years ago. So they were already working on season 2 before the first episode of season 1 even aired. So there was no time for the showrunner to get any feedback from season 1 and course correct for season 2, because they were already, season 2, by the sounds of it, was already written and already in the works before season 1 started even airing. So I don't know. There really doesn't seem like there would be much time to course correct for season 2, so I don't know if we're going to get a lot of similar changes or doubling down on some changes. I think my biggest disappointment overall for season 1, quite frankly, was Matt, and not the actor. Again, I loved Barney Harris as Matt, but he was only written as Matt for like the first 30 seconds, and very little of him throughout the season was written very well. I think they really went out of their way to make Matt a much more dislikable character in season 1. And I know a lot of people were talking about Matt's father, Abel, and how he was just presented as a really horrible person in episode 1. And a lot of people just kind of dismissed that because he's such a minor character. Making him into like a lout and a cheater and everything is no big deal. He's not really a player in the story. But I'm going to counter that argument here, because if you look at the changes they made to Matt, they made Matt just a straight up thief in season 1, like he's stealing from neighbors. Something that, is pretty hard to do in a little village that small. It's you're not going to be able to steal from your people you know, and they're not going to notice when you try to pawn it off on somebody else. So I did not like that. So I kind of think that they made his father a real scumbag so that they can make Matt not a good person either. So I was really not happy with how Matt was written in season 1. So I'm hoping that as they move past Matt and the dagger stuff and Matt begins his actual journey that he gets for the whole rest of the story, I'm hoping that they write Matt much better, because season 1 Matt was written very poorly. So I hope Donald Finn is given a much better version of Matt to play than Barney Harris was. And I thought Barney Harris did a fantastic job with the character he was given to play. Unfortunately, he left the show for whatever reasons, so he wasn't there for the final 2 episodes when they came back into production after all the COVID pandemic like havoc that caused. So, but we'll see. Like I said, Donald Finn has said that he starts off in a room, basically interacting with Leandrin. So he was a very comfortable place to begin exploring the character and begin playing the character. Just being in this one room, almost like a stage play. So I'm really curious to see his take on Matt. And I just, again, hope all these characters are written much better than they were in season 1. Because, like I said, Nynaeve was my favorite thing about season 1, far and away. And even her, there were parts where she was very poorly written in terms of book Nynaeve at some parts of season 1. Other parts, the writing was fine, the characterization was fine, but Zoe Robbins, I thought, just knocked it out of the park for the character overall in season 1. So I'm really looking forward to her. I just hope each of the characters are just written more like how they are in the books. And just characterization-wise, how their personalities are. I'd like to be a bit more book accurate, even if you're changing some of the things that they're doing. At least get who they are presented better. So we'll see. Season 2 is going to be a really important season for The Wheel of Time, especially because there was such a lot of negative feedback, particularly from all the book fans regarding season 1. Season 2 is going to be a kind of a make or break in some degree to see how many of the built-in fan base they're going to be able to keep. I mean, people new to this story, I have no idea how they're taking this show. My sister loves season 1 because she hasn't read any of these books, and she just absolutely loves season 1. So, but she's much more as big of a fan as he is of fantasy and stuff. She's more of I hate the term normie, if you will, but she doesn't read the story, so she just knows these adaptations. So she enjoys it, which is fine. And there's a lot of stuff in season 1 really to enjoy. So, and there's a lot of stuff as a book reader that was not enjoyable. But we'll see. So I'm trying to think of what other characters we know we're going to be getting. I have no idea what we're going to be doing with Aviendha, Bane, and Chiad, since they're popping up with Perrin and not Nynaeve and Egwene and Elaine. I guess they're going to be tangling with White Cloaks. And because I know Dane Borhold is in here, so I think they have to establish that whole conflict between Perrin and Dane in particular, and the White Cloaks. So I think that has to be established here. So I expect we're going to see Aviendha, Bane, and Chiad killing, mass veiling up and putting down a lot of White Cloaks. Because I don't think they would get along with each other very well, the White Cloaks and the Aiel. So I am looking forward to it. I've mentioned this before. I'm not happy with the presentation of Bane, Chiad, and Aviendha overall. They're just kind of very generic looking. When I saw the photo, it was Bane on the left, Aviendha in the middle, and Chiad on the right. I saw 3 Maidens of the Spear. It looks generally fine, Aiel. But I would never have known that was Bane, Aviendha, and Chiad if the caption didn't tell me, because they don't really look anything like the characters are described in the books. So, and that's one of the things that it disappoints me when it comes to adaptations. When an author goes out of their way to be very specific in description, I do think that when you cast for a live action, you should get to as close as that very specific description as possible when you can. When the characters are just generally described, you have much more flexibility to cast whoever you want, who just an actor you think might just nail the role best. But when you do have very, very specific descriptions, the characters really should meet those descriptions whenever possible. Like, the biggest thing that stood out to me with these three, again, this is promotional photo stuff, is they all have long hair. And Maidens of the Spear don't have long hair. They keep their hair short, like less than shoulder length, somewhere above the shoulders to however short. And Bane has short, bright red hair. I think Chiad has short, like golden hair. And Avienda has short, sort of like deeper, richer red hair. So they're very distinct looking in the way they look. So I should know Bane, Chiad, Avienda on sight immediately from the photo. And again, I only know that because the promotional material told me that's who it was. So a little disappointed in the show's sort of lack of detail where that detail should be. Because Bane and Chiad and Avienda, they're going to be with us the whole way. They're going to be with us all the way through here. So, and there's going to be a lot of Aiel. So I'm just very surprised that they didn't go out of the way to give, like, Bane her bright red hair. Give them these couple of visual markers that distinguish them from any other Maiden of the Spear. So, again, tiny little nitpick, I know, in the grand scheme of things. I just hope they're well written. The Aiel are very complex, complicated characters. You need very skilled writers, very skilled actors to not make them come off as just like some sort of parody. So they've been my biggest worry from day one. But we're going to begin to learn how the Aiel are going to be portrayed in the show here in Season 2. I don't know how much of Season 2 Avienda, Bane, and Chiad are going to be here. They're listed in Episode 1 as cast members, so they should be here right away, I imagine. But I don't know how much of the show they're going to be in this season. They're going to be big players next season, and going forward, they're going to pretty much always be around. But we'll see. I don't know if they're just here for an episode or two and then they're on their way, or if they're going to be sticking around. So we'll find out. We'll find out. But I am worried about how the Aiel are going to be written and acted, and because they're not easy. If you haven't read the books, this is a very complex, very interesting people. A lot of different cultural elements taken from various different societies and mashed together with this sort of early Irish or Scottish sort of clan structure among different families and tribes and things. And really interesting sort of family structures with first and second sisters. And it's a very complex, intricate society. And I'm worried that the show is going to make some changes, that there's some patriarchal elements that, let's just say, might be frowned upon by the showrunner and Amazon. I don't know. I hope they just show what's in the books, because this is who these people are. And when you accept any culture, imagined or even real, and you say, oh yeah, I'm going to take that away. I'm going to take that out of your culture, but you're still the same thing. And that's just not how people actually work and how societies function. You can go in and you can take something that, I can just take this one thing out. It's no longer the same people. So I'm curious to see. One of the things that one of the reasons why I suspect we're not getting Gaul at all, is I think they're just going to have Bane and Chiad be a couple. The two of them be together instead, without Gaul being a component of that. So that's, again, just total surmising on my part. I've seen nothing to indicate that they're going to go that route and make these sort of cultural, structural changes to the Aiel in the show, but it would be the least surprising change they make from book to live action if they go that route. But we'll see. Next season is really going to be the tell when it comes to that, because next season is supposed to be book 4. So when Rand goes into the desert and we go to Rudion and we meet all the clan chiefs and all the Seps and everything, and the whole Shido and the Karakarn. Next season 3 is going to be wild. And I'm already looking forward to season 3. Even the cast, in some of their interviews, they were really excited for what you're going to see in season 3, because I don't know if season 3 is finished, or if they were in the middle of filming it when the strike hit. I have no idea. I don't know if they're even directly impacted by the strike. I'm not sure. It's depending upon where the studio is located. Like House of the Dragon is like a British production, so it doesn't come under the American like actors union stuff and writers unions. It's a separate unions and everything. So I think House of the Dragon isn't impacted by the strikes. I don't know. Amazon probably is, but I'm not really sure. I don't know where their sort of home studio for the show is, if it's overseas or if it's in the United States. So that really is the main thing that impacts whether the strike impacts them or not. So I don't know. I know season 3 was at least written, and they seem to have been already working on it because they were really excited about what you're going to see in season 3. And not the best place for a show to be for your actors being interviewed about the upcoming season to be saying, well, wait till season 3. So that has me, again, also a little worried about what we're going to get in season 2. Hard to know, really. But overall, I'm happy, super happy for Perrin. We're going to be getting much more book Perrin here. We're going to finally get Elias, finally get Hopper, finally get Perrin's journey with the wolves starting. We're going to be getting Perrin's main book 2 plot where he's on the hunt for the horn with Ingtar and Uno, bloody Uno, and I'm loyal, the Ogiers, with them on that journey. So, and with the Aiel coming in and Bane and Chiad and stuff, we're getting some book 3 Perrin stuff. So Perrin looks to have the most interesting plot so far for book 2 or for season 2 for me. Perrin is getting book 2, book 1, and book 3 stuff all together. So I'm hoping he, like I said, I mentioned at the beginning, I'm hoping Perrin gets a nice chunk of the screen time for season 2 because his character really needs it, especially if they've sidelined Matt and they've sidelined Rand, and I haven't even gotten to Moiraine and Lan yet. So if 2 of the boys are sidelined, not involved in the main plot of the show, Perrin gets a chance to shine. So I'm really looking forward to it. Now, about Moiraine and Lan, since I didn't mention them yet, I might as well cover them here too. Season 1 ends with Moiraine losing her powers, if you will. Dun, dun, dun. I hated that, personally. Now, I'm going with she's been shielded by Ishamael. She hasn't been stilled. She would absolutely know 100% if she's stilled. And so I'm just going with she's been shielded in a very intricate, complicated shield, and that she can't touch Sidon, so I don't know if she has any ability to get out of it, or if even the Aes Sedai could help her. So it's possible that she might just stay in this situation until maybe Rand starts to learn how to manipulate Sidon, and then maybe he can puzzle out the shield and unravel it and let her powers come back. So that's what I'm expecting is going to happen in the show at some point. Whether it happens here in season 3, season 2, I mentioned it's going to have to happen by the end of season 2, or it's going to have to happen early in season 3 because, Moiraine's got some stuff she's got to do coming up when we get into season 3. She's got work she's got to do with the one power. So she's just going to need to have it back at some point. I cannot believe that they've stilled her and then are going to go the stilled kind of subplot thing with Moiraine instead of who they're going to go with, who it actually is in the books. So I'm just she's been shielded as far as I'm concerned. But she's off dealing with not rediscovering the woman she is, apparently, maybe without powers. Like, who am I without these Aes Sedai powers? So she's going to be doing her own thing. She's kind of apparently pushed Lan away, and Lan's going to be doing his own thing. I have no idea what Lan's going to be doing or where he's going to be going. If you know Lan from the books, when Moiraine's not around, Lan is basically okay, time to die. Let's just go to the heart of the battle and kill as many people until I die kind of thing. That's kind of Lan. Lan has this sort of this built-in death wish that's always there, and he's always pushing the edge of that envelope. So I wonder if they're going to lean into that part of Lan here in season 2, if he's going to be off separate from Moiraine. And that's going to make season 2 a little harder, quite frankly, to navigate in terms of getting everyone's story in, because Rand is off doing his own thing, Matt is doing his own thing, Perrin's over here, Moiraine's doing her own thing, Lan's doing his own thing, and then the girls are in the White Tower, and then there's Min kind of doing whatever Min's going to be doing. So they're a bit more spread out in the show than they are in the books at this point. So 8 episodes with all these, again, 10 characters that they really have to keep track of, and a lot of these characters are all over the place. It's going to be harder to give everyone the time that they need. But I'm really hoping this is going to be a Perrin-centric season, because Perrin needs his journey with Elias, with the wolves, his whole Book 2 plot on the hunt for the horn, and some of his Book 3 stuff coming into play here. So Perrin has the most to do, because out of all the Emond's Field people, he's the most actively engaged in the action side of the plot for season 2. So we'll see. Again, I love Perrin's story in the books. I like all of the Emond's Field, all 5 of the Emond's Field characters. Nynaeve is top 3 for me in the books. I think Aviendha is my favorite character in the books, followed by Min. Followed by Nynaeve, followed by Min. Those are my 3 favorite characters. So I really hope for a much better written Min in season 2, and I hope for a well-written Aviendha that we begin to see here in season 2. A bit surprised by the casting of Ayola Smart for Aviendha. She's like a bit outside of what Aviendha looks like, so I'm curious to see, I'm hoping she just knocked it so completely out of the park that they're just kind of changed. Well, I hope they're not changing the Celtic identity of the Aiel, personally, but with Aviendha being played by Ayola Smart, they're certainly taking liberties with keeping the casting as sort of Celtic looking as possible. But we'll see. Again, I just hope they write the character well, because if the actress beat out everybody else in the auditions, I don't have any worries that she's going to act her ass off in the character. She's probably going to be a great Aviendha, even though she doesn't really look like her. But I just hope the character is well written. Again, this whole show comes down to the writing. It was lacking in season 1. I'm hoping it's much better in season 2. Some of the clips we've seen do make me feel better about the writing. Nynaeve's sort of scene where she's getting ready to take her accepted test, I thought was very well written. That's, from what I recall, it's close to the book. So I'm hoping the accepted test is close to the book. The scenery for Rand and Lady Selene is different than in the book, but that little scene, as much as some people are complaining about it, as long as it's Selene kind of manipulating Rand, playing on his insecurities, kind of getting her claws into him like she's trying to do, and pushing him and prodding him where she wants him to go, as long as that's the kind of dynamic we get, I'll roll with the changes for Rand's plot. But I think Natasha O'Keeffe, she's got the acting chops to really give us a very interesting Lady Selene. And I'm deliberately not saying her actual name for anyone watching this who hasn't read the books at this point, and they've only been watching the show. I don't want to spoil who she is for the people who might be watching this who don't know who Lady Selene really is. And I cannot wait to see that journey. Now, there's a lot of horror elements in the books that I really hope the show leans into, especially when you get going back to Shamael and the Chosen or the Forsaken, depending upon who's referring to them. There's a lot of horror elements with some of these characters that happen in the books. There's some really creepy, nasty, really horrific things. Nynaeve's accepted test should leave the audience just traumatized if it's done well, if it's written well. I have no doubt Zoe Robbins can knock that scene out of the park with her acting. Like I said, she's my favorite part of season 1, easy. But if they write the accepted test the way it was written in the books and let the actress play out what happens in the books. That whole accepted scene is going to be probably one of the highlights of season 2. And it should leave the audience, should leave the viewer just visibly like shaken by the time it's all done. It's such a great scene in the books. It's one of my favorite Nynaeve scenes, really. Whoops. My camera's glitching a bit here. I hope it's not glitching for you. So give me a moment. Let me do that and then bring the camera back in. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's glitching on my end or your end. Okay, I'm back. But Nynaeve's whole accepted test really is one of my favorite Nynaeve scenes in these early books. So now, all that said, because my camera is just freaking out on me, so I'm assuming it's freaking out on you, I'm pretty much going to wrap it up here. I've been talking for over like an hour and 15 minutes, and I pretty much worked my way through all the main characters and what I've learned about what to expect from them from these cast interviews. And if you haven't watched the interviews with the cast, just go on YouTube and do a search for real-time season 2 cast interviews, and there a bunch of them are going to pop up. Some really interesting stuff there. I can't wait to see Donald Finn and his take on Matt, because Barney Harris, I thought, even though it was a poorly written character, I thought he did such a great job with the role he was given to play. And I will miss his performance, but I am looking forward to seeing Donald Finn step into the role. Good to see an Irishman step into playing Matt Coffin. So I'm really curious to see. I only know him from one tiny little scene in whatever, was it season 2 of The Witcher or something? I don't know the actor at all, other than that one little tiny thing. So I have nothing to go by, but he looks the part. He's got the right look. And he's lucky he's going to get a much more active and interesting version of Matt to play that Barney Harris unfortunately didn't get an opportunity to. So we'll see. But again, I am most excited for Perrin and Nynaeve, both of their characters this season, just based upon what I've seen so far from the promotional material and the teaser and the trailer and everything. Those two I'm excited for the most, because Perrin needs to be, man, they owe that actor so much because they took away so much from him in season 1. So I'm really hoping that they gave him a lot to really chew on this season, because it's book 1, book 2, and book 3 stuff for Perrin all here in season 2. So I'm trying to think of what else I might need to cover for season 2, because again, first 3 episodes are coming up on Friday. So at the end of this week here, it's Sunday as I'm doing this, so technically it's the beginning of the week. I'm really looking forward to these first 3 episodes. I'm going to be talking about them. I doubt I'm going to be able to do one thing for all 3 in one shot. So I might watch the first one, kind of do a video, watch the second one, do a video, watch the third one, do a video. I'll see. I'll work the logistics out. I kind of like just kind of live streaming and just talking about it off the top of my head when it comes to like the shows, but it depends. Since there's 3 episodes dropping in one shot, that's going to be difficult, but I'll sort it out. Let me know in the comments below if you prefer like a live stream sort of talk about it, or if you'd prefer me to kind of sit down and do a recorded talking head thing. So either way, I'm fine. So I think that pretty much wraps up this, I guess, part 2 of my thoughts on the upcoming season. Again, happy for Perrin, happy night for Nynaeve. We're getting what looks like what they should be doing. Bail Doman is here, so really excited. We didn't get Bail Doman, so super happy he's actually in the show. That's a very, very nice surprise that he's been cast and we're going to be getting him. And what is it, Valen Luca? Is that the circus guy's name? He's not going to be till later, but if he's going to be in the show, Bruce Campbell, you got to get Bruce Campbell to play that guy, who I can't picture anyone else playing. Was it Valen? I think Valen Luca is his name. The guy running the whole circus traveling show. I mean, that's just perfect for Bruce Campbell. But we'll see. Anyway, outside of that, yeah, now it's just waiting for the show to premiere, waiting to see how well the characters are written, waiting to see whether they have any chance of doing the Aiel justice, and we'll go from there. And I think I'm going to wrap it up here because I am hungry and I got to start prepping for dinner. So you can watch my part 1 of the live stream. I've got to add the link to that the part 1 live stream about this whole topic in the show notes below. I have to add it in there still. And probably at some point I'll pop up the link to it up here. Probably just a playlist. I'm just started that video and then this. But anyway, I'm rambling now, so I am going to go. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Thank you for watching this, everyone who actually did show up during the live stream at some point. I appreciate everyone who stops in to, like, when I'm actually streaming live. This is something I'm trying to get back into doing, like having as a regular thing on my channel. I'm kind of looking at every other week, maybe, to start, and eventually every week. But with Wheel of Time out, it's probably going to be an every Sunday thing, a live stream. Just doing Wheel of Time live streams for the duration of season 2. And to those of you watching this on the replay and live, like, subscribe, all the YouTube-y, stuff. So I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers. I hope I get there before the end of the year, but we'll see. But anyway, like, subscribe, all those things. Thank you for giving me some of your time. I really, really appreciate it that anyone comes and watches me at all. I mean, thank you. So, and with that, I will bid you adieu. Now, go read The Wheel of Time if you haven't read it. Go read it. Great story, 14 books. Sticks the landing. Absolutely one of the best fantasy stories of all time. Go read them. You'll get hooked. I had to stop myself in my reread after book 5. Otherwise, I would have kept going. And with that, I am out. Thank you very much. Happy reading.